Howdy, guys, and welcome to Cliff Notes, and welcome to a recap of the Challenge Ride or Dies, episode number 18. But let's call it the more important title, Part 2 of TJ's Final. Yeah, I really thought that this week maybe was going to be the final episode. We were going to find out who goes home with the money. I should have known better. Being a 100-hour-long final, they weren't going to wrap it up. Sure enough, they haven't. We're going to get at least one more episode. Heck, we may get 2 episodes out of this thing. But we still don't know who's won the money because with 100 hours, it takes a lot of time to finish up. I feel for these guys. So before we talk about what happened this evening, let's talk a real quick refresher about what happened last week. Remember, we originally had 4 duos in the final. We lost Olivia and Horatio last week. Olivia got hit with a golf ball, launched out of a slingshot, hit her right in the bridge of the nose. I'm glad she was okay, that the injury wasn't any worse, but she had to drop out, which forced Horatio to drop out as well, because it is ride or dies, it is duos. So we're down to 6 contestants left. 6 contestants left, 3 duos. Of those, Nani and Bananas, so Anissa and Jordan are still in the competition, but they're really way behind the other 2 teams. Anissa rolled her ankle very, very early on day 1. It's been a struggle ever since then. She struggled with having the sprained ankle, but also there's just a lot of running, which is to be expected in these finales, but that certainly is not her strength either. So Anissa and Jordan way behind the other 2 duos. In second place, we've got Nani and Bananas, not that far behind Tori and Devin. But here's the thing. Nani and Bananas' communication just doesn't seem to quite be where it's at. Tori and Devin, at least so far, doing pretty well in terms of communicating with each other. Nani's and Bananas, not so much. Anissa and Jordan also, not so much. But Bananas and Nani are just a little bit behind the leaders, who are the ones that are left, Tori and Devin. Yeah, Tori and Devin had a great first day. They are still leading the way as we get into part 2 of this final. We start off hour number 28, so we've got like 72 hours left in this final. God, it's a long time to be racing. So that's where we're at as we start off this episode. Now, as I mentioned, Tori and Devin are in first place. They've made it through 3 checkpoints. We see them running a little bit further down the path as we start tonight off. Coming up on checkpoint number 4, not a good sign when it involves water. Now, and we're not talking water like an ocean or a giant lake, things like we've seen in some of the earlier episodes. Now, this is a little bitty pond. We'll be nice and call it a pond. Down here, we'd call it a swamp, because this little bit of a pond or swamp covered with algae. Nothing but green, nasty looking stuff throughout the whole area. Now, as I'm watching this, my first 2 thoughts are, 1, do they have alligators in Argentina? If so, I'd be even a little more nervous. And 2, I'm pretty sure the challenge was filmed in the wintertime. It's hard. You're doing all this running. You're getting yourself all overheated. Now they got to get in some cold water for this checkpoint itself. So especially brutal because of that, and algae everywhere. It's going to get all over these guys. So we've got that. Now, what is a checkpoint? What is the competition itself? Well, we discovered that in the middle of this pond are 2 swim platforms that each have a bag of puzzle pieces that the duo has to recover. They both have to go out. They both have to recover both bags, make it back to shore. Once they do that, it turns out it's a puzzle competition. Yeah, Tori and Devin are in first place. More good news for Devin, the puzzle master king, his meat and potatoes. He is happy that it's a puzzle, figuring they'll do pretty well with that. The puzzle itself, let me see if I can explain this as best I can. Basically, they've retrieved 64 puzzle pieces. Each puzzle piece is a triangular shaped plate, metal piece that has a different color, a different symbol on it, which is going to be laid up or matched up to a piece that's at the answer area. There's 16 4-sided triangular pieces stacked 4 by 4. So a 4 by 4 grid of these 16 pyramids sticking up. 4 faces for each of those 16. So 4 times 16 equals 64. 64 faces, and they have to take their 64 puzzle pieces and put 1 piece on each face of these pyramids. So how do they know which goes where? Well, as it turns out, there's an answer key way up yonder in the woods. So this is going to be a bit of a running challenge as well, because Each of the two partners in the duo is going to have to run up into the woods. The answer key up there is a giant version of what they've got back at the starting point. They have to climb a ladder, look down over this thing, try to memorize as many of the pieces as they can, what piece goes on what face of these pyramids, run back to the starting point, put those pieces down, and repeat back and forth until they've solved the puzzle itself. Now, this is difficult. As Devin points out, if you screw up on a single piece, it could take you forever to figure out where your error is. So he's saying, look, let's not try to memorize everything all at once. Just memorize a few pieces. Make absolutely sure that you know they're correct. We'd rather do more trips and make sure we're correct than try to go faster. And now we're screwed up. We're here all day long. So that's kind of their strategy as they're starting off. Not looking easy at all. While they're actually still out trying to gather their puzzle pieces from the water, Bananas and Nany show up. And the two duos actually appear to be pretty close to one another. Tori and Devin have the lead, but not by too much. So they're doing that. Aneesa and Jordan still a bit further behind. But we have Tori and Devin show up. We have Tori and Devin have gotten their pieces. Bananas and Nany have gotten their pieces, and they're both working on the puzzle. Tori is the first one to recognize that as hard as this puzzle looks, maybe it isn't quite as hard as it first appeared at first glance, because she has recognized that, yeah, there are 64 pieces that have to be put down, but she recognizes that there are 4 pyramids on the answer key that all have the exact same shape and color facing each other. That there are 4 that are exactly the same. Now, the final answer key, they're a little different orientation, but they have the same 4 puzzle pieces applied to them. And as she realizes, there's actually 4 of these pyramids that have the same shapes all the way around, 4 other unique ones that have a different configuration, 4 others that have a different configuration, 4 others that have a different configuration. So as a result, she realizes that really they just have 4 different configurations they have to memorize. Once that happens, they still have to look at the answer key and figure out the orientation of each of these. But it's made it a little bit easier from a memorization standpoint. And it certainly makes it a lot easier to solve the puzzle. So she points that out to Devin. Between the head start they had getting to the checkpoint first and this little bit of a clue to how to more quickly solve the puzzle, they finish it up first. They're done. They're back on the path. They're retaining the lead itself. Now, while Bananas and Nany are trying to solve the puzzle, we do realize Aneesa's not the only person who's got an injury that she's dealing with. She rolled her ankle. Well, turns out Nany's injured her knee as well. She's tweaked her knee somehow. We didn't see that last week, so I'm not sure what happened. Maybe it just happened in this last little bit of running. But she's hurt her knee. She's trying to walk it off as well. We'll see how that impacts the last 78 hours or so of this race. But we do have that. So we've got that going on. Now, let me look at a couple other things real quick as I go through here. We've got Johnny and Nany still working on the puzzle. Aneesa and Jordan still haven't shown up yet. So we'll get back to them just in a second, because we've already got Tori and Devin on the path heading towards the next checkpoint. Well, they realize as they're running down this path that it's taking them back to the camp they stayed at night number 1, with tents, a campfire, nice little sitting area, thinking they may be done for the day. No, not quite. TJ's got one extra little surprise for these two and the other teams as well. They've got one more challenge they have to complete before they can call it a day. For Devin's benefit, or certainly Devin's not unhappy at all to find out that it is yet another puzzle. Yeah, it's a lucky day for Devin, isn't it? This puzzle, a little different from the one before. This one involves a square, I don't know, 1.5 feet or so by 1.5 feet, and 10 puzzle pieces, the numbers 0 through 9. The puzzle pieces are in the shapes 0 through 9. They're written very much as you see in a digital clock. The key is that these puzzle pieces have to fit in, match up with each other, lay flat. And there's only one way you can do it. Basically, you have a 6, and the 3 fits inside the 6, and the 8 fits on top. You have to get the 10 pieces to all match up with each other to fit in just correctly so it'll lay flat in this little square container. So that's the task itself. It looks hard. There's a lot of different configurations it seems like you could do with these puzzle pieces, but Devin and Tori make it look easy. Maybe a little bit of it maybe is editing, but I don't think so. They solved it pretty fast. Congratulations to Tori and Devin as they finish this up. They get to take a little bit of a break for the day, finishing up in first place. A lot of race to still be had, but at least for now, they are in first place. So congratulations to them. Now, Bananas and Nany are still working on the puzzle, and actually, they're still the final station trying to solve it, and they just can't figure out this puzzle. As good as Devin is at it, Bananas and Nany, especially with them not talking well with each other, not communicating well, they just don't seem like they can figure it out. It's starting to look like this could be one of those challenges where it may be nighttime before they wrap this thing up, because it's just not working well at all. In fact, they are still working on the puzzle when Aneesa and Jordan show up. Again, Aneesa and Jordan were way behind, but they've shortened the lead because Bananas and Nany just can't figure it out. Tori and Devin back at camp enjoying life. These two still trying to solve the puzzle itself. They do something interesting. They do something I think pretty smart. They're recognizing there's no prizes for second place. There's no benefit to finish second over third. So these two duos really aren't right now competing with each other. They're competing with Tori and Devin. They've got to close the lead on those two or else they're going to win the whole thing. So they recognize and they acknowledge with each other that it would benefit both of them to help each other out. So they're really trying to work with each other to help with the puzzle and everything else. And as it turns out, remember Tori found that little secret clue to help solve the puzzle faster? Aneesa finds the same thing. Aneesa recognizes the same thing, that there aren't actually 16 unique pyramids, that there's just 4 by 4 by 4 by 4. She recognizes that, works smarter, not harder. She's trying to tell Jordan has been pushing Aneesa so hard about walking as fast as she can. She's been kind of snapping back saying, there's only so much I can do. Jordan does not want to hear it. As a result, their communication has just really fallen apart. Now, when it could really benefit them, it's not working that well, because Aneesa is saying, look, we can do this differently. I recognize something. Jordan doesn't want to hear about it. He just keeps saying, no, just run. I don't care about it. Just run. Let's just get it done. He won't listen as she's trying to explain it. So she starts trying to solve it using her method. Eventually, he recognizes what she's doing. He starts listening. As a result, they finish the puzzle before Bananas and Nany. Yeah, the second and third places have changed. We now have Aneesa and Jordan a little bit ahead of Bananas and Nany, because just a little bit later, they figure out the puzzle as well. They all head back to camp and are getting the puzzle solved. They both solve it. I think Bananas and Nany solved it just right after Aneesa and Jordan. It was close enough. It's not going to make a huge impact on the next days of racing. So there you have it. So at the end of this day of racing, Tori and Devin in first, and then Johnny and Nany and Aneesa and Jordan back behind in third and second. And we're ready to spend a night and start a new day. So let's talk about the next morning. Hour number 50, we're told as we're watching this episode. A little different competition here. A little strategic thinking, a lot of strength as well, because the next checkpoint they get to, we come up on 3 cars, and these aren't the fancy SUVs that they drove out to this challenge in. No, these are 3 beat up looking vehicles. Certainly have seen better days. Some of them don't have doors. I'm sure all of them are missing engines and everything else. But we see 3 cars parked on this old, dirty, muddy road. And it turns out, as TJ points out, when they first come out, I don't know, did they really think they were going to get to drive these cars? Maybe. But TJ quickly points out that says, oh, we got cars for you. Oh, but they don't have motors, so I guess you're just going to have to push them. Just what they wanted to hear, right? Especially Nany with her injured knee anyway. So they have to get to the cars. I think TJ tells them before they ever actually run down the path and find the cars, we've got cars for you. They get excited, and then he says, you got to push it. So yeah, he gets them a little bit there, as he sometimes does. So before you can get to the cars, a little bit more running that takes place. And as a result, with Tori Devin being in first at the end of the evening, they take off first. They're the first ones to reach the car. First decision that has to be made. 3 cars sitting on this road. Which one do you pick to push down the road? There's one of them that's sitting, if I recall, sitting on the road itself, but it's sitting in a bit of a mud puddle and mud and all of that. There's another one that's off on the side of the road, kind of on the shoulder or down in the depressed area. And then another one that's a little bit further off. It doesn't have any doors or anything. Maybe it's a little bit lighter, but it looks like it's harder to get from its original destination. So they have to pick which car they want to start with. And they pick the one that's not in the road because they see the mud that the road car is in, and I think that's going to be hard to get it moving and everything else. So they pick one of the other cars that's parked in the grass instead. They might have made a mistake because they're having a difficult time trying to push this car, trying to get the initial momentum built up to get this thing rolling a little bit, get it moving down the road. So now here's the other thing that TJ pointed out. As soon as someone touches the car, that's yours. There's no checking back and forth. As soon as you touch the car, it's your car. So there's no going back again. Tori and Devin are stuck with this car. They're having a hard time pushing it though. So we'll see how that works out. Bananas and Nani are next. Yeah, they may have started off a little bit behind Anissa and Jordan, but a little bit faster running. They've made it to the next car. They're looking like trying to decide which car they maybe want to work with. But if I recall, Nani puts her hand on the car and the road, just almost as a relaxation, just to rest for a second, to stabilize herself. TJ Amigo says, "Now you touched it. That's your car now." So they're locked in with that particular car, which means when Anissa and Jordan show up, they've got the third car, which doesn't have any doors or anything. Looks like it could be the lightest, but it's also farthest from the road, maybe a little further up the depression to get it onto the road itself and start pushing it down the way. So it looks like Tori and Devin may have made a little bit of a mistake because it seems like Anissa and Jordan are actually moving their car faster than either of the other two. Now, we talked about the fact that Anissa maybe isn't the endurance runner that some of these other contestants are, but she'll give it 110%, and certainly Jordan will as well. So with both of them pushing on both sides of this car, they get it moving before either of the two. Is it going to be a huge lead change at this point? Disrupt everything that's happened so far? It's possible, but now in the end, the order doesn't change. Tori and Devin finishing first. Even though they had more difficulty getting their car going, they did have enough of a lead. They still finish in first. Anissa and Jordan actually still finish in last place with Johnny, Bananas, and Nani in the middle. So we've got the same order, but they're all packed in a little bit tighter than they were before. Running on down the path, that's the theme of this challenge, right? Solve a challenge, lots of running, get to your next checkpoint. Well, that's what's happened once again. The next station, I said last week that it was nice that they got the eating out of the way with the rank stuff they had to eat on the very first checkpoint. Oh, how wrong I was, because we've got another eating challenge. This is a little different, though. This isn't horrific tasting stuff that you can barely stomach and everything else. This is a straight up, how much can you put down? Because rather than yucky food, it's all about quantity. Each of these teams show up. They find out that they've got some bread that they've got to eat. Yeah, bread. We can put down a little bread, right? They also have a lot of spaghetti. How much? 3, 4, 5 pounds of spaghetti, it looks like. A big old platter loaded to the top with spaghetti. So they've eaten the bread, which is now sitting in their stomachs, swelling up and creating all kinds of issues. And now they have to put all of this spaghetti down before they can complete the challenge itself. This is tough. Because of the car moving challenge tightened up the place, we now have all three sitting at there, each of them sitting at the table at the same time, trying to put the food now, put the food down. And I gotta say, there's different techniques taking place here. We've got Tori and Devin doing a very good job with the fork and getting as much as they can in their mouth every single time. Bananas and Nany, yeah, they're forget the knives and forks and all that. Straight up grabbing it by a handful, forcing it as quick as they can, eating it like barbarians. And you know what? Here, first of all, they're eating a lot faster because they don't have to mess with twirling their forks and all that. Just grab it by hand, force in as much as you can. So they're able to get a lot more in their mouths every time. So that certainly helps. The other thing, when you got a big old handful of spaghetti, smash it in your mouth. A few pieces fall off here and there. No one says anything. So they probably don't end up eating quite as much spaghetti. They drop a little bit more. It doesn't look like anyone says anything. And as a result, Bananas and Nany looking pretty good. Now, throughout this challenge, it's not nasty food. Well, some of y'all may think it is. I love me some spaghetti. Maybe not 5 pounds of it, but that doesn't mean that there still isn't a whole lot of vomiting going on. And man, the challenge likes to show people throwing up on their show, right? We see a lot of it, which in this case is probably the best thing in the world that could happen. How are you going to fit this much food in your stomach unless you somehow empty it out first? So we see a whole lot of that going on. And it works. Eating with your hands works because, as it turns out, Bananas and Nany actually finished their spaghetti first. They're ready to celebrate before TJ says, no, what kind of host would I be without giving y'all a little dessert as well? Yeah, so he brings out 2 gigantic bowls of ice cream. I don't know, 10 scoops each. Just one big old bowl of chocolate ice cream. So yeah, each of y'all have to finish this thing. Once you do that, then you're through. A lot of ice cream. A lot of ice cream. But brain freeze would be kicking in my head as well. But Bananas and Nany get into this as well. And actually, they see the light at the end of the tunnel. They're just happy to be finishing up. They make it through the chocolate ice cream. A little more vomiting taking place, but they do make it through the chocolate ice cream. They finish in first place. So congratulations to Nany and Bananas. I really thought at the end of last week's episode that Tori and Devin had a lead. And with Nany's banana maybe not communicating so well, that Tori and Devin maybe had a lead that was going to be insurmountable. I should have known better, because this is the change. As great as Devin is with the puzzles, not so much on the eating type of competitions. Nany and Bananas have just blown through this thing. They finished up this particular episode, or this particular challenge, in first place. So they finished up. They're in first place. Secondly, Tori and Devin make their way through. I think it's Tori and Devin who ended up basically turning it into a bit of a milkshake and just drinking it down as opposed to eating as ice cream. Doesn't matter. Tori and Devin have finished up in second place. Aneesa and Jordan finish up still in last place, just as we started the episode. They're in third. So last place hasn't changed. First and second place have flipped from the last episode. But they're all incredibly close at this point in time. And we find out we still have 37 hours remaining. So they're hour 63, 37 left to go as we move into what I think may be the final episode. So in summary, Bananas and Nany looking pretty good. How's her knee going to affect her? It seemed like at the end maybe it wasn't as big as we initially thought. So hopefully that'll be all right. But we'll see how Nany's knee holds up. We'll see how their communication does. It seems like winning that eating challenge and finishing up in first place, that goes a long way to soothing over feelings and all that, right? So they seem to be on better terms, but we'll see when the stress and the competition picks up again, if their communication improves a little bit. But for right now, Nany and Bananas are in first place. Tori and Devin right behind them. And again, from communication, I think they're doing better than anyone else. They fully have the capability to catch back up and pass Bananas and Nany. Aneesa and Jordan, we'll see. I'm holding out hope. I want Aneesa to win one of these things, but last place and a hurt ankle, I think they definitely are the long shots at this point in time. I think it's 2 duos competing with each other, but we're going to find out next week. I'm so excited to see how this thing turns out. Who's walking home with the big bucks? I'm going to be happy to see any one of these 3 duos win it. So we'll see next week. We'll see how many more checkpoints have left, how many more incredibly nasty and hard and difficult challenges are left. We're going to see it all, I think, next week. We'll find out. Until then, guys, y'all have a fantastic one. I will see y'all next Wednesday. We'll talk about episode 19, maybe the final of this season. Until then, guys, SKD143. Cheers, my friends. Bye.